It's well established that Clovis people were in the Americas and all across the U.S. at 13,000 calendar years before present.
We were really excited to get a research proposal to see a little bit more about the deposits that are out here.
So I think if we can test more deeper, we will find more things deeper. I mean, you found flakes deep, I found a flake deep.
It's difficult to do archaeology down 2 to 3 meters, right? You have to open wide excavation areas to be safe.
What we're trying to do is see how extensive the Clovis occupation is, which is an impossible thing to do without this technology.
We have a scraper that is probably a Paleo-Indian scraper.
So I'm pretty confident we found a new Clovis occupation area. I really like connecting with people who lived on the landscape for thousands of years in the past. So being tied to this local landscape and finding how people adapted over thousands of years and finding their tools and thinking about a time in the past where people were using stone to make tools rather than all this modern technology we have today is it connects you to the past, but also shows you how technology and our lives have changed versus these people who lived back then. There's, of course, this continuous debate over what the initial timing of people settling the Americas is. But it's well established that Clovis people were in the Americas and all across the U.S. at 13,000 calendar years before present. So with my research, I've been documenting Clovis occupations across Maryland. And these people live in small groups and they move long distances and were clearly able to adapt to their local environmental conditions successfully. And as part of that, the part that you see in the archaeological record is the stones that they're finding that just make stone tools. These Clovis people are great geologists, and immediately when they're on the landscape, they're finding the highest quality stone to make stone tools out of. In Maryland specifically, and it, again, debates across the whole country, but the archaeological record is really lacking in preservation for 13,000 years ago. So mostly what we find are stone tools. Organic resources are mostly gone. Occasionally, rarely you find a feature like a hearth that has preserved organics that are burned. But for the most part, it's just stone tools. And so we have to use the stones to try to reconstruct people's lives. And so, like, one thing we don't know very much about even is what were Clovis people and their descendants eating in Maryland? We can make assumptions, but we don't really have direct evidence yet.
So for this project, I rented a Kubota skid loader. I really like these machines. This one was rented from a local company called Garrett Equipment Rental. And what I like about the Kubotas is that the door slides overhead inside the cab. That eliminates that problem of the door swinging out and not being able to get in and out of the machine with the mast mounted on front. It also has an automatic coupler mechanism, so that when I go to connect into the paleo digger, I just flip a switch and it connects up automatically. I really like that feature. Plus the Kubotas are just all around a good machine to operate. So I'm anxious to get out and run this machine and see what we can find. Tomorrow is our first planned work day, but the remnants of Hurricane Debbie are moving up the coast. It was raining here today while I was setting up the paleo digger, so I'm already soaked. And the forecast is for 3 inches of additional rain tomorrow. So we're going to postpone a day, and hopefully it dries out quick enough that we can get to work and see what we can find out here at the Barton Site. Turns out that the hurricane was more hype than storm. So we did not get the 3 inches of rain, and it's actually pretty dry, and it's a beautiful day today. The humidity went down, it's sunny, and we expect to have a really nice weather for the rest of our time here at the Barton Site.
Put a flag here, that's STP-1. We're here at the Barton Site to try to find evidence for the 13,000-year-old people who were here. Dr. Bob Wall excavated at this site since the 1990s. He excavated very deep test units. They went down at least 2 meters, and towards the bottom he was finding evidence of Clovis occupation, overshot flakes and debitage from a 13,000-year-old occupation. I'm interested in this site for a number of reasons. One, I get really interested in the archaeology of the first peoples in Maryland. So studying that 13,000-year-old occupation is one of my favorite things to study. I'm also really interested in this site because it's a site that's owned by the Archaeological Conservancy and protected for additional archaeological research. It's also a site that the Maryland Historical Trust holds a preservation easement on. And so we wanted to learn more about what is this really important 13,000-year-old site that we're preserving, and preserving specifically for additional research. So now we're out here doing that research in a way that's feasible. Since the site is so deeply buried, it's at least 6 feet down, if not 9 feet down below surface. It takes a large investment of energy and people and time to try to get down there to study that very deep, important early archaeological occupation. We know there's a Paleo-Indian occupation here based on Bob Wall's previous work, but he was digging just a few telephone booths down that deep. So it's really limited to one specific area. So now with the Paleo digger, we're able to shovel test pits in a regular interval to try to see some of the site patterning. If we do find additional evidence for Clovis peoples here, we'll likely come back in the future to open up larger excavations to confirm and see some more of that site patterning.
So we've got a flake blank, and this is like a crested blade-like flake, so it's part of the core reduction. I teach archaeology at Towson University, and I've been directing the archaeology here at the Barton Site for about 30-some years. We started working here in the early 90s. We knew there was a Kaiser village here. We knew there was a few other things that we wanted to investigate. So we started doing archaeology at the south end of the site in the early 90s, and everything just kind of snowballed from there. We investigated the Kaiser village. We discovered the Susquehannock site while we were doing that. And then when we started doing the deep testing on the site, which I always do on most sites I've worked on just to see where the bottom is and what the oldest component is on the site, we got down to a Clovis layer. So we expanded on that for a few years, and basically the site has just about every kind of research problem you want to investigate because the entire time range in prehistory is here. The Clovis layer is about 2 meters below the plow zone. And what we found is mostly the local Shriver chert, and they're working it into bifaces. We exposed maybe about 15 or 20 square meters of that, and there's little clusters of debitage that they've been making tools. The one hearth feature, we got a radiocarbon date from that at about 13,000 calibrated. But it's mostly debris from tool making that we found so far, and tools like scrapers, overshot flakes consistent with Clovis tool making activities. Those are the primary things we found.
Where did you find the Clovis point again? It was a triangle, you said, of...
There's a little field out. There's a field on the other side of that little stream down there. Between that field is a triangle. The railroad goes here, the state road goes here, the stream comes down here, makes like a little triangle. I found the Clovis over close to the road bank. The water guard for the road was sticking in the dirt clod after they plowed. I just seen the base of it sticking out of the dirt.
Well, there's one fluted point from the surface, not around where we've been excavating, but the Clovis levels have overshot flakes, which is specific to Clovis technology. That's the primary thing. Some broken end thinning flakes, which is also typical of Clovis as well. So we're getting the Clovis indications from the debitage as well as the radiocarbon dates, which confirm that.
Where'd you get that at?
At the Museum of Ontario Archaeology.
Okay, that's a
out in
cool
London.
shirt.
Isn't that good?
Yeah.
I love that. So the Archaeological Conservancy acquired the Barton Site in 2000, so 24 years ago, and we had been aware of it because of Bob Wall's work with Towson University, uncovering some of the village sites out here. And at the time, farms that are located farther to the southwest were being mined for topsoil. So there's a big fear that this soil, which is really fertile, really good for farming, would be mined and sold elsewhere. So the Archaeological Conservancy got involved. We're the only national nonprofit that acquires archaeological sites and permanently preserves them for future research. Once we acquire these properties, they are maintained as permanent open space research preserves. So much as you've seen, this is a large field. It's maintained as a farm field with no-till farming to protect the site, to manage it, to prevent trees from growing up. And as a part of that, we work with a number of site stewards. We have folks, Brent and Matt are two local site stewards. We have Roy with the Western chapter of the Archaeological Society of Maryland that are our eyes and ears and help us keep an eye on things out here. We also work with the farmer Duncan, who helps us manage it and alerts us to any issues. So we were really excited to get a research proposal to see a little bit more about the deposits that are out here.
So I'm Dr. John Waugh. I'm a soil scientist. I mostly work for archaeologists. My background is in archaeology, and I did my bachelor's degree in anthropology at Penn State, and then my master's in soils and my PhD in soils. So soil scientists do a lot of things. It's like in anthropology, you know, there's linguistics, and there's cultural, and there's physical, and there's forensics, and there are archaeologists. It's the same with soils. Soil scientists do a lot of different things. I do pedology. We look at soil formation and soil landscape relationships. You know, there's two parts to an archaeological site. There's the behavior part and there's the natural process part. And, you know, as in when I was working in archaeology, I discovered I didn't like the behavior part because people don't have to do things. Native Americans might like to live on high areas above water, but they don't have to. People can do any stupid thing they want. Natural processes have to do their thing, and we can look at processes happening now and understand what happened in the past. You know, we might not understand the processes. They might be happening in a different place or a different rate, or we might not quite get them, but they can't lie to us. We can figure it out. So that's why I've always liked the process part of archaeology rather than the behavior part. So I really like the paleo digger. I know I've told you that before, because I think it's great because it lets you test stuff that I think is under-tested. You know, if you see potential to 3 meters, it's really hard to dig by hand to 3 meters. So you get these little tiny exposures, or they're not tested, and so you don't find anything. And so you don't think there is anything because you don't find anything. So it gets harder to convince people that they need to test the 3 meters if they're not finding stuff. So I think if we can test more deeper, we will find more things deeper. I mean, you found flakes deep. I found a flake deep. I think that'll make testing easier, and I think it'll make it happen more often, and I think we'll find more stuff, and I think we'll better understand the archaeological record, especially on important sites, you know, like this one where we have stratified Paleo-Indian and pretty old dates when you get down to those gravels at the base. So, I I really like the paleo digger, and I hope more people use it on more sites, because I think that's the only way we can keep moving forward and understanding this is to test it. So
Where are we going to head next? Let's go like 20 or 30 meters that way and then go back. Cool. Do another transit going back. Probably right to where the paleo digger is. That would be good. We're here because this is a deeply buried landform. We can see the floodplains behind us above the river, and we're using terrestrial vibrocoring to use a concrete head mixer and vibrator to attach it to a aluminum core barrel that's about 3 centimeters in diameter to sample cores from this site down to the depth of Paleo-Indian, but also capture those occupations that came after the Paleo-Indian, so the early Archaic, Middle Archaic, Late Archaic, Woodland period occupations in one continuous core. We take those back to the University of Connecticut, we open them, and then we describe those sediments geologically and do a number of other analyses to learn about the different layers of occupation here, the different periods of time in the past. It's difficult to do archaeology down 2 to 3 meters, right? You have to open wide excavation areas to be safe. So if you're going to go down 3 meters, you have to have an excavation that is at least 3 to 4 meters wide. You have to step that down to get down to that depth of interest. Whereas with the vibrocore, we can get down 2 meters to 3 meters sometimes in about 30 minutes, 40 minutes, right? And so we do these in a transect across the landform and then with the landform, and that helps us figure out where the deeper layers are here on the floodplains, where they start to pinch out. And so we can radiocarbon date those different layers if there's organic or charred material in them, and that can help us put together a stratigraphic diagram of the site and figure out where we should be pinpointing other more intensive investigations. And we also are going to use a 200 megahertz ground penetrating radar unit, which is a lower frequency than most of the GPR units that archaeologists use, because that lower frequency is a more powerful radar unit and antenna that penetrates deeper into the ground, and it's going to give us good visibility at 2 to 3, maybe even 4 meters in depth across the soil. So that will be able to compare with the work that's being done with the paleo digger as well as the vibrocores to look at to really ground that GPR analysis and get farther away from where we were able to sample to and sort of have a better stratigraphic column.
Here she is. I only hurt. I don't help. Jack drinks water.
Yeah. Something different. Oh, that's awkward. I'm gonna go down here now.
It's not fun to screen, is it?
No, not with this kind of soil.
You need to pull up a better quality of dirt. This stuff is invisible.
We have a scraper that is probably a Paleo-Indian scraper. Hopefully 13,000 years old, but Zach says minimum 9,000 years old. So it's the first tool that we have found at this level.
They were planning to host with my family and his.
Yeah, and just rolled in the river.
Redefine.
My name is Roy Brown. I'm a member of the ASM and the Western Maryland chapter. I've been associated with both organizations since the 1980s. I first came down here for the dig with Bob Wall, I think it was in '87, and we were excavating across the creek, going upriver here, and got hooked on archaeology from that. I was a surface collector prior to that. The Archaeological Society of Maryland, Inc. It's centered down in Crownsville near Annapolis. That's where we meet a lot for annual meetings, and they have workshops in archaeology and lectures and that. I don't know how many chapters there are. They have chapters in the Eastern Shore and all the way out here to Western Maryland, which I've been involved with since the 80s. Go online, find a chapter nearby you, and there's activities you can get involved with. They're very open to new people coming in, eager to instruct you in the art of archaeology.
The volunteers are the boots on the ground and the hands in the lab getting this work done. We couldn't do any of this work without them, both screening the soil and finding the artifacts and labeling the bags in the field, and then similarly in the lab, washing the artifacts, keeping track of them, sorting them, doing the initial catalog, which I then proof. But I'm one person. there's no way I can do all that by myself. And so I rely heavily and feel really fortunate to have the support of the archaeology community and these volunteers to give up their own time. They're not getting paid, they're volunteers. They're coming here consistently and regularly and putting in 6 hours of work. Some of it's pretty tedious. Right now they're labeling artifacts, which is to make them ready for curation. That's a tedious job. Washing little microflakes can be tedious, but their enthusiasm and support makes this project possible, both in the field and the lab.
It's really great to work on a site with this many different people from different backgrounds. We've got a lot of volunteers, a lot of people with different types of geoarchaeology and archaeological backgrounds coming together to sort of look at stuff that's been investigated for the last 30 to 40 years, but with newer technology and newer applications are really helping us to pinpoint some of these areas of interest without sort of Herculean effort to get down and excavate them. So it's pretty exciting, and I know that we've already found a lot of exciting stuff over the last couple of days.
Check us out online, archaeologicalconservancy.org or arccons.org. Either one will get you there. We also have a YouTube channel where you can see our work, and all of our contact information is readily available online. You also maybe have seen the magazine American Archaeology. That is our publication. Our contact info is in the front. We have 5 regional offices that operate across the country, and we're happy to take recommendations for sites to acquire. We ideally get sites donated, but realistically we purchase a lot of properties in order to protect sites. So we always welcome suggestions or ideas, and just contact with our members and people interested in archaeology.
What we're trying to do is see how extensive the Clovis occupation is, which is an impossible thing to do without this technology. You're stuck with augering or digging holes 2 meters down and not even knowing what you're going to find. So here we have the opportunity to see how extensive the Clovis occupation is, and maybe in some landforms nearby, see if it's there as well. So this has been a great experience, and finally being able to pinpoint where this deeply buried occupation is.
All right, let's see if we can drag it. So this was a great success the last 5 days. We excavated at least 12 deep test pits. Some of those we halted because we encountered late woodland features right below the plow zones. Once we noticed those, we stopped. But the test pits that we could get all the way down averaged about 3 meters in depth. And in many of the test pits, around 200 centimeters below surface or 2 meters below surface, we encountered chipping debris, mostly chert chipping debris. And that layer correlates to where Bob Wall was finding Clovis occupation in his deep test units. And with our test pits, we excavated both nearby where Bob's test units were to kind of explore more of the Clovis occupation area that he had found, but then we jumped 24 meters further away just to explore that area. And in that area, we found 8 chert flakes down at 2 meters below surface. And also in another hole 8 meters away, we found an end scraper out of chert, also at 200 centimeters below surface. So I'm pretty confident we found a new Clovis occupation area. We can't be sure. It could be early Archaic, but if we correlate the levels on this stratified site, it's most likely it's a new Clovis occupation area at Barton.
So they're pulling that out of the ground.
Right there.
Right there.
Yeah, there's chalcedony. The chalcedony's all over there.
Yep.
Everything came in their bags, unwashed. We have a sink back here, so we washed everything. Okay. And then we had the volunteers keep everything organized by STP and level and do a preliminary sort of what the artifacts were. I then double checked what they found to make sure to have it all consistent. Yeah. And then we've put them into these hand catalogs. From those hand catalogs, I then make a digital catalog, which is kind of just cleansing the data, make sure it's all entered the exact same way, not some is debitage, some is flakes, it's all consistent. And then from there, I have a label making program. So now we're at the stage where we're finishing the catalog and starting to label the artifacts. And they need to be labeled to be preserved at the MAC lab. That's one of the conditions. So the Barton site, the Paleo Digger excavations have been awesome. And we were keeping track in the field as we're digging with the levels and what people are finding to learn about the depths things were buried. And the field, the pace is go, go, go. So in the lab, we've had more of a chance to sit down, study individual artifacts in more detail. And so one big thing that I didn't notice in the field was we have a utilized flake, a large flake that has edge damage on its lateral edge that we found at 190 centimeters below surface. And so that's another tool form, another classic kind of Paleo-Indian. It's an expedient tool, but one you would expect in the Clovis archaeological record that we found in that new activity area where we've also found the end scraper. We have the one good chert flake blank that was down 280 to 290 centimeters below surface, somewhere around there. That's a real artifact, no doubt. It's a flake, a large flake of chert. What is it doing down there? And it's 80 centimeters deeper than what is typically associated with the Clovis occupation. Is there something older? Maybe. Or is there undulating topography down with the braided streams when Clovis people were occupying the site? Maybe. So it's still an open question. I certainly, since we know where that test pit is, it's a good candidate to go open up and investigate further if we want to learn either about the site formation processes or potentially an older occupation at the site. Other things that I'm excited about for the future of this project is we had a fundraiser through the Archaeological Society of Maryland. They have a new special projects initiative, which directly grew out of the success of the Paleo Digger project. And so that resulted in a special project page on the Archaeological Society of Maryland's website, which I've been using to promote when I give public lectures and when I produce public documents saying, hey, if you want to learn more and support this project, go visit this website. And there's a link where if we can raise enough money to basically to rent the skid steer, which is the big cost, then we'll go back. And we were fully funded within a month and a half. So there's a lot of enthusiasm about the Paleo Digger because it's such a unique opportunity to study these deeply buried sites. And so I feel lucky that we got to get this grant from Archaeology X to explore the Paleo Digger at Barton, and with how great these results were, I'm super excited to go back for another week and see what else we can find. What the Archaeological Society of Maryland has agreed to is that they would leave the project page, the ability to donate open, with additional donations going to support specialized analyses at Barton. So additional radiocarbon dates. The other thing I'm really excited about, I want to do residue analysis, protein analysis on the stone tools we've been finding, particularly the ones that are very deeply buried. So getting back to this question of what were Clovis people eating in Maryland? There recently, as technologies have advanced, protein analysis seems to be more and more accepted in archaeological research. And there was recently a study in the Carolinas where a large amount of Clovis and later fluted points were analyzed for protein. And they got evidence of proboscideans, so mammoths and mastodons, bison, so probably bison antiquus, horse, I think, cervids, deer, maybe caribou. So now there is, in the Carolinas, there is direct evidence of what these people were eating, what these Clovis people were eating. And I want to do the same in Maryland. And so this additional funding through the Paleo Digger page will facilitate that. Protein analysis, additional radiocarbon dates. The Paleo Digger project will happen again in 2025. And any additional donations mean we get to learn even more from those results by doing more specialized analyses. Archaeology is important because it's the foundation for the landscape we live on today. And so there were people who have lived here before us for thousands of years, and we have a record of those people which is at risk for being destroyed. By studying archaeology, we're preserving that information about past people's lives for us to remember and study, but also for future generations. I mean, everyone knows archaeology is a destructive science, but as we're digging archaeological sites, we're recording the information to preserve for posterity for the future to study. With modern development, if archaeology and cultural resources are not considered during modern development, once you dig the soil up with a bulldozer and mix an archaeological site, you can never get that information back. It's destroyed. And so our goal for archaeology and cultural heritage preservation isn't to stop development projects, it's to document cultural resources in conjunction with development to both allow future progress while preserving the past for the benefit of all society.